The story begins back in 2009. Inside a quiet hotel room, two North Korean Special Forces agents, Magnolia and Kolsang, prepare for a dangerous mission. The tension in the air is heavy, and every move they make is calculated. They have just infiltrated a secret facility filled with enemy agents, and their objective is simple: steal critical information and escape without being caught. Outside the room, Chola stands guard, making sure no one enters. Inside, Magnolia carefully searches for the target information when suddenly her phone rings. It's her father. His voice is urgent and filled with fear. He tells her to get out immediately and warns her not to trust anyone. But before he can finish his sentence, a gunshot echoes, and the call abruptly ends, leaving behind complete silence. At the same time, Kolsang finishes eliminating the enemies and returns to the room. As soon as Magnolia sees him, her father's last words replay in her mind: "Don't trust anyone." Without giving herself a second to think, she pulls the trigger. One shot is enough. Kolsang drops to the ground, dead. Without looking back, Magnolia escapes through the window and disappears into the night. 11 years later, the story shifts to South Korea, where we meet Myung, a hardworking woman who runs a small donut shop called Twisted Donuts. Every morning, she opens early, and almost everything sells out quickly. Life is simple, but far from easy. Her husband, Suk, runs a small computer repair shop, but he has a strange habit of buying juice bottles just to collect the caps, hoping to win a prize. Mi-young constantly scolds him for wasting money, but Suk remains optimistic, joking that if he wins, they could at least get a washing machine. One day, something unexpected happens. Mi-young opens a bottle, takes a sip, and checks the cap. She freezes. It's the first prize, a trip to Hawaii. For a moment, the family is overwhelmed with happiness. They celebrate, laugh, and finally feel like luck is on their side. But later that night, reality sets in. They are struggling financially, and closing the shop for a week feels impossible. Mi-young decides they shouldn't go, and instead plans to exchange the prize for something more practical. Their daughter, Nari, is clearly heartbroken by this decision. Things take a more emotional turn when Mi-young receives a message from Nari's school. Nari has gotten into another fight. When confronted, she breaks down in tears and reveals the reason. Her classmates make fun of her for being poor. She says she doesn't even have a phone and has never been on a vacation. Hearing this deeply affects Mi-young. That night, Mi-young lies awake, thinking about everything. After a long silence, she turns to her husband and decides that they will go on the trip. She realizes that their daughter needs this moment of happiness more than anything else. The next day, the family heads out to get their passports. They feel excited, nervous, and hopeful. However, they are not the only ones preparing for a journey. Nearby, a mysterious woman stands quietly, holding her passport and waiting for a call. Her presence feels unusual, as if she is not traveling for pleasure, but for something far more serious. Elsewhere, a man named Cheol-sung receives important information. Magnolia has finally been located after 10 long years, and she is about to board a flight to Hawaii. The orders are clear: capture her alive. At the airport, Mi-young and her family rush in at the last moment and barely make it before the gates close. By pure luck, 2 business-class seats become available, and Mi-young and Nari are upgraded, while Suk has to remain in economy class. On the plane, we are introduced to Hyun-min, a flight attendant who seems unusually observant. He watches passengers carefully, almost as if he is analyzing them. There is also a politician on board who is extremely afraid of flying. He takes sleeping pills and quickly falls unconscious before the plane even takes off. As the plane rises into the sky, the situation begins to shift. Agents start moving quietly, checking passengers and searching for Magnolia. The mysterious woman notices this unusual behavior and quickly hides inside the bathroom. Meanwhile, Hyun-min serves snacks to Mi-young, but something catches his attention. When the dry fruits slip, Mi-young catches them mid-air with surprising speed and precision. This small moment makes Hyun-min suspicious, and he begins to question who she really is. Back in economy class, Suk befriends an old man named John, who is traveling to meet his granddaughter. He carries a teddy bear as a gift, creating a warm and innocent moment before the tension escalates. Soon after, Mi-young starts feeling severe stomach pain. It gradually becomes worse, forcing her to search for a restroom. She asks Suk to take care of Nari and quickly leaves. The first restroom is occupied, so she moves further into the plane, unknowingly crossing paths with an agent pretending to be a normal passenger. At the same time, another agent reports that Magnolia has not yet been found, but they have not checked business class. This pushes Cheol-sung to take action immediately. He decides they can no longer wait. Hyun-min overhears their conversation and realizes that something is seriously wrong. He tries to warn the other flight attendants, but no one takes him seriously. They dismiss him as overly paranoid, unaware of the danger unfolding around them. Moments later, everything spirals out of control. The plane is suddenly hijacked. One of the attackers takes a flight attendant hostage, while another forces his way into the cockpit and orders the pilot to change direction. Panic spreads among the passengers as chaos takes over the cabin. The attackers begin gathering everyone together and taking control of the situation. One lazy member of the group is assigned to check the bathrooms. He knocks on a door, but gets no response. Instead of waiting, he simply walks away, unknowingly leaving Mi-young hidden inside, completely unnoticed for now. One of the hijackers moves to check a room, but suddenly, the plane jolts violently. The door slams shut, and objects fall in front of it, trapping him inside. He's now locked in, completely stuck, unable to get out. Meanwhile, the politician Jack starts suspecting that this hijacking might be some kind of conspiracy. But the agents don't even bother responding to him. They quietly drag him along and force him to sit with the rest of the passengers like he's just another piece of luggage. Back on the ground, the South Korean National Security Agency receives news of the hijacking. Surprisingly, they're not too worried, because they already have an agent on board. The problem is their so-called agent is the same man who was terrified during takeoff, and now he's completely unconscious from sleeping pills. No matter how much they shake him, he doesn't wake up. Inside the plane, the hijackers continue gathering passengers. They drag the unconscious politician along like a lifeless doll. Cheol-sung scans the crowd carefully, searching for Magnolia. At one point, he spots a woman wearing a veil and orders her to reveal her face. But when she does, she turns out to be someone else entirely, a famous actress trying to travel secretly without attracting attention. At the same time, the National Security Agency finally pieces everything together. Magnolia, the real target, is the mastermind behind all of this. After escaping North Korea, she had been living in South Korea under a completely new identity. What they didn't know was that she had undergone plastic surgery. And her new name? Mi-young. Back on the plane, an agent overhears Mi-young inside the bathroom and tries to capture her. But the moment he makes his move, Mi-young's instincts kick in. Her old training takes over. In seconds, she overpowers him and knocks him unconscious. Then suddenly, Cheol-sung's voice echoes through the plane speakers. "Magnolia, show yourself." Hearing that name again, Mi-young freezes. Her past comes rushing back, everything she tried to leave behind. The escape, the fear, the years spent building a new life. A normal life. A family. She clenches her fists. She's not running anymore. This time, she's going to fight. As she prepares her next move, Suk quietly hands Nari over to the old man John. He's worried about his wife and decides to go look for her. Meanwhile, the agents begin collecting everyone's phones to cut off communication. But Suk manages to find a laptop. Thinking quickly, he sneaks away to the server room. There, he connects the device to the system and starts hacking into the plane's controls. Elsewhere, Hyunmin is taken by one of the hijackers and ordered to bring up the passenger list. But Hyunmin has already noticed something unusual. He deliberately stalls, buying time, because he's seen Mi-young hiding nearby. And right on cue, Mi-young strikes. She suddenly attacks one of the agents and knocks him out cold. Without wasting a second, she changes into a flight attendant uniform and takes Hyunmin's smartwatch. Now in disguise, Mi-young moves into the economy section of the plane. It's completely empty, except for one agent. A tough one. But Mi-young doesn't hesitate. She moves in fast, grabs his gun, and in a brutal close-range fight, she takes him down. She kicks a cold drink can straight into his throat, then smashes another across his head, knocking him unconscious. She keeps moving. Eventually, she reaches the section where all the passengers are being held. Her daughter is there too. For a brief moment, she hesitates. Then quickly, she hides her identity by covering her face with a visor, disguising herself like a man. She silently takes down the guard nearby, without anyone noticing. Meanwhile, Hyunmin makes his way to the server room, where he discovers Suk secretly communicating with the National Security Agency. At first, Hyunmin thinks Suk is one of the hijackers and tries to attack him from behind. But Suk reacts instantly, blocking the attack with ease, revealing the truth. He's not just a normal husband. He's a former secret agent. Frustrated, Suk explains that he was forced into retirement and wasn't allowed back into action. Hyunmin, now understanding the situation, tells him they're not alone. There's another agent on board, and she has a phone. Using the smartwatch, they establish contact. Meanwhile, Hyunmin is clearly enjoying all of this. He's a huge fan of detective stories, and now he's living inside one. He even tweaks the smartwatch settings, altering the voice, so Mi-young and Suk won't recognize each other. The call connects, But it doesn't last long. As soon as Suk starts talking seriously, Mi-young gets irritated and hangs up immediately. No time for speeches. Back in the server room, Suk successfully hacks the system, putting the plane on autopilot and secretly adjusting its destination. At the same time, Hyun-min heads to the back of the plane. There, he finds the hijacker who had earlier locked himself in and fallen asleep. Without hesitation, Hyun-min takes him out. In the cockpit, Cheol-sung holds the captain at gunpoint. But when he checks the system, something feels off. The plane is changing direction on its own. He quickly checks the security cameras and spots Suk messing with the controls. Immediately, he heads down, gun in hand. At the same time, another intense fight breaks out. Harem, one of the strongest agents, finally finds Mi-young. This isn't an easy fight. He's stronger, faster. Mi-young struggles, taking multiple hits. At one point, even her visor gets sliced in half. But she doesn't give up. After a brutal exchange, she finally defeats him. But her victory doesn't last long. The peace didn't last long. Just as the smoke cleared, Cheol-sung, the man holding Suk captive, stormed in. Mi-young didn't hesitate. She ran straight toward him, her voice trembling. "Where is my husband?" But the answer she got wasn't what she expected. Cheol-sung looked her dead in the eye and dropped a bombshell. Her husband had been a government agent all along. Mi-young was paralyzed. But even with that revelation stinging her heart, she couldn't let him die. When Cheol-sung lunged forward to throw a knife at Suk, Mi-young moved like a flash, stopping him dead in his tracks. That's when it clicked for Cheol-sung. He looked at her move and realized the truth. Mi-young was the legendary Magnolia. Without a second thought, he tied them both up, dragging them through the crowded passenger area to be locked away. In the chaos, a young woman burst into tears at the sight of her father. A man named John tried to distract the girl with a teddy bear, but Cheol-sung's eyes widened. He saw an opportunity. He figured capturing her would give him the ultimate leverage. But the girl was smart. She looked him in the face and lied, claiming she wasn't who he thought she was. She pointed to a masked actress nearby and shouted, "That's my mother." The crowd gasped. The actress had never gone public about having a child. She tried to deny it. No, this girl is lying." But then the girl leaned in. She whispered two words that changed everything. "Help me." In a moment of pure heroics, the actress pivoted. "It's true," she told the world. "She's my daughter. I just wanted to protect her." Meanwhile, in the back room, Mi-young felt like her entire life was a lie. But Suk didn't waste time. He laid it all out. "Years ago, I was an agent," he confessed. "I was assigned to watch you, but I couldn't do it. I retired the moment I met you." He reminded her of the day she saved him from thugs, sharing her food when he had nothing. "I fell in love with you that day," he whispered. "I don't care that your real name is Magnolia. I don't care that you were a killer. All that matters is that you're my wife." Mi-young wept, this time with joy. But the drama was just getting started. A passenger found the knife Mi-young had dropped and managed to cut Suk's bonds. They were almost free, but a guard returned too soon. Suddenly, out of nowhere, two passengers stood up and started pummeling the agent. These weren't ordinary passengers. They were Harem's men. They stormed the cockpit, kicked Cheol-sung out, and took full control of the bird. Cheol-sung wanted to sell Mi-young to the government, but Harem had a much darker plan. He knew Mi-young was a prize, and he was going to sell her to the highest bidder. Harem was a monster. He didn't care about the lives on board. His plan? Jump out with a parachute, let the plane crash, and make the world believe everyone, including himself, died in the wreckage. He forced the pilot into a steep, terrifying dive. The cabin descended into pure panic. Back in the hold, Cheol-sung was thrown in with Mi-young and Suk. Desperate, Mi-young demanded to know what he really wanted. Cheol-sung finally cracked. The North Korean government didn't just want her, they wanted her eyes. Her father had founded a secret group, and her retinas were the only key to a safe full of nuclear weapons. Mi-young didn't trust him for a second. 10 years ago, you tried to kill me," she spat. But Cheol-sung shook his head. "No, I was coming to save you." Before they could argue further, the ceiling panel crashed open. Hyun-min dropped down like a shadow, freeing them all. They moved fast. Hyun-min raced to the server room to override the autopilot, cutting the lights to give them the cover of darkness. Mi-young and Cheol-sung stormed the passenger deck, and a brutal fight broke out. It was a seesaw of violence, back and forth, until the passengers finally had enough. They started fighting back. One hit a thug with a bottle, another used a piece of a seat as a club. With the crowd's help, they finally took Harem down. It felt like victory. They sat with Suk, breathing a sigh of relief. But then the man with the teddy bear, John, stood up. In a split second, he grabbed the young girl and put a bullet into Cheol-sung. The room went cold as John revealed his true identity. He was the man who had murdered Myung's father. He looked Myung dead in the eye and gave her choice, come with me, or the girl dies next. Suk saw a tiny opening and went for it, trying to stab John with a taser, but it didn't work. John countered instantly, stabbing Suk and then firing a shot. That's when John revealed his ultimate trump card. There was a bomb hidden inside that teddy bear. He warned them all. If anyone tried to pull a fast one, he had the button ready. If I press this, he sneered, the girl goes flying, and so do the rest of us. Myung was trapped. She had no choice but to agree to John's proposal. She leaned in, hugging Nari goodbye while John prepped his parachute and pulled the plane door open. But as she held her daughter, Myung signaled her. She whispered something, a secret plan, straight into Nari's ear. The moment she got the signal, Nari hurled the teddy bear toward her mother. Myung knew this greedy man wouldn't kill her, not when her eyes were the only way to open that safe. In a heartbeat, she snatched the bear, threw it out the door, and shoved John right out after it. The bear exploded in midair, and John was caught right in the center of the blast. Amazingly, Suk was still alive. It turns out he'd been wearing the bulletproof vest Kolsang had given him before the plan even started. The family was finally back together. Kolsang grabbed his own parachute, looking at them one last time. May you all be happy like this, he said, before jumping into the sky to make sure the government wouldn't capture him when they landed. Back on the plane, the enemy agents were all strapped into their seats. A message was sent to the National Security Agency. Everything was under control. The pilot was ordered to head back to South Korea for the investigation, but Suk wasn't having it. He wasn't about to let his daughter's vacation be ruined. We already paid for this, he argued. Let us go this time. After that, you can do whatever you want with the plane. A politician named Jack stepped up then, trying to take charge. He insisted this won't work, claiming the security agency would never allow it. But then Hyunmin saw the terror lying there. Something snapped in Hyunmin's mind, and she knocked the leader unconscious. With a loudmouth out cold, the heroine reminded everyone on board, if it weren't for Myung, they'd all be dead. The captain agreed. He diverted the flight to Hawaii to fulfill Myung's wish. They reported that Hawaii was close, and even though they were running low on fuel, they made it. Finally, the family was at the beach, enjoying the sun. Suk handed Myung a ring, asking her to remarry him. He confessed that he'd been saving money for 10 years, and he'd actually won the lottery. The free trip story. He just made that up as a cover so they could finally go on this walk together. Hearing that they'd spent so much money, Myung actually started chasing him in a fit of anger. While they were sunbathing and the dogs were relaxing, one person was still left on that plane. It was the brother who had taken sleeping pills and missed the entire thing. He finally woke up, only to find over 100 missed calls on his phone. A few days later, news crews showed up at Myung's shop. Because she saved the plane, they offered her a free trip to Disneyland. Nari was absolutely overjoyed, but Myung and Suk, they just looked at each other, totally nervous. After everything they'd been through, they were now deathly afraid of boarding a plane. If you liked the video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.